stand in front of the building and do a little one-sided conversation.
I'm sure they'll give us some PR liaison at least.
I'd like somebody. Hello, how are you doing today? We came here last night. We were told to come back today between 8 and 4, that there would be somebody on the public relations.
On a Sunday?
On a Sunday, yes. They got nobody here? Is there anybody here we could talk to?
Nope.
There's nobody here that would talk to us right now?
There's no administrative staff on weekends or holidays, which is tomorrow.
Okay.
Unless something major happens.
Okay. What would be the best way to contact somebody who'd be willing to talk with us?
Call the administration Tuesday.
Call them on Tuesday? Okay. Is there nobody here to just talk and kind of answer a few questions? I mean, we're not...
All that information goes through our public information officer.
Okay. And that's the only person who can talk? Okay.
Do you have, sorry, do you have their information, like their name or a business line that you could reach them at?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Who are you?
We're working with the Police Accountability Tour from copblock.org, and we're going around different cities.
Police? What?
The Police Accountability Tour.
What is that?
It's a tour that copblock.org is currently doing. We're visiting major cities in the U.S., and they've also gone and we had a team go to Cape Town, South Africa.
What is copblock.org?
It's a police accountability organization, media. I got a card for you here I can give you. But we do a lot of media, online information. We are mainly focused on exposing corruption and crime in the police department to both let the public know there is a problem, but show where it exactly lies, because there is a bit of mistrust both with the public generally dealing with the police, and we want to point out where the actual flaws are.
Where do you get that information where there's a bit of mistrust from the public?
Well, there could be, potentially. Our main goal is to educate the public regarding their rights when interacting with law enforcement and to provide an objective record for either side in case anything happens in the line of duty or whatever, you know. So we try to just provide an objective record for either side if case either person gets out of hand, you know, because I think it'd be foolish to say that some individuals don't abuse their power at times. So
I'm sorry, what did you say now?
I said I think it might be foolish to say that some individuals do not abuse their power at times. So to provide an outside objective resource for the public and for other officers in the department is, we feel, a beneficial and...
What do you mean some officers don't abuse their...
No, I said it's a potential that some individuals may, and that it's obviously been proved in the past. Right.
And you know, we've been here in Gary for a few days and just talking to local residents. There does seem to be a bit of scaredness with talking to the police. I think in some of it might be the culture, and that's kind of what we're more trying to figure out.
Okay.
Because there is quite a bit of violence in the city, and we're trying to figure out what exactly is the root cause of it, not just dismissing it as that's just Gary. We're trying to figure out what exactly is causing the 48 homicides the city's had to deal with this year. Because I think that there isn't a full story being told, and what we're kind of interested in finding out is, are these people that are being killed, are they complete victims, or is there something more that, you know, because I'm a resident of Gary.
Okay.
And I've dealt with a little bit of crime in my neighborhood. I've had my house shot at night, but I'm not in any way affiliated with a gang or anybody that I know who's in a gang. So I'm kind of curious in some ways.
He does have a mom. It's $250. She just came and she just left. She asked, can you come back with us? right now?
Well, I'm kind of interested in finding out, and you can tell this to, I guess this is Corporal King. We're interested in just finding out what's the root cause of the violence, what is the community's view of the police, because I know recently with the Region Stop team, they've been trying to build a better repertoire with local people and have more positive interactions because people aren't talking to the police. So what we're trying to figure out is what are the Gary police doing to better their relationship with the public to actually build trust back up, because there is definitely an issue of trust right now where people see something.
Depends on who you're talking to also.
Right.
I don't know where you're getting all your information, your fact from, but you know, one person may say potato, one person may say potato. You know, I mean that varies from whoever you're talking to. And generally speaking, in my experience, you know, it's usually the people with the mistrust and the negative issues are the people with the negative behaviors. You know, so I mean, if you talk to 10 people and you know you have 2 or 3 out of those groups saying, yeah, the cops are doing this, the cops are doing that, of course, especially when you're talking about negative behaviors, it gets way more publicity than anything positive the cops may be doing. You know, so and when you're talking about this sort of thing, also keep in fact and keep in mind when you're talking about these people, what kind of background are they basing this doggone opinion? Because that's all it is, an opinion. And just because someone may have negative behaviors, what kind of behaviors are you talking about as negative? What may somebody may be considering negative may be entirely within the scope of the law. So what you're talking about is something that could be like, it depends on what that person's doing, you know. So it's been my experience that people generally feel positive about the police.
And Gary?
Yeah. You know, it depends on who you're talking to.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have a percentage of our population that's involved in criminal behavior. And they know people that's involved in criminal behaviors, and those behaviors spread out all over the spectrum. You know, so when they get that experience of the police, that behavior as far as negativity, if there is some, spreads throughout whoever they come in contact with.
Okay.
You know, so it's just a matter of who you're talking to and an opinion. That's all it is.
Do you think any of it has to do with the fact that there's been a bit of an issue in the past with certain officers in the Gary department being charged with other criminal offenses? Some in the same scope of what you're talking about, those people who are in crime and that's their life? Or is it a possibility that they see the police in a certain way because, you know, there's one officer I saw that was stopped with 50 pounds of marijuana in their car. There was another one that was arrested at the home, had cocaine, crack cocaine.
Well,
you know,
I'll tell you what we do, generally speaking. Everyone has their day in court, okay? And the circumstances, as far as those are concerned, are determined by the judge. I don't really participate in the fact of what personal opinions are, as far as what individual alleged misconduct may be with police officers. You know, they have a right, just like everyone and every citizen in this country has, as far as their day in court. And when that shows up, then it'll be whatever that is. So.
Okay. You think?
But call Corporal King Tuesday, because tomorrow's a holiday.
Okay.
And see what she has to say then.
Okay. Do you think that she'd be willing to talk? Because I mean, we can't.
I don't know. You know, I can't answer for her. I really can't. You know, she's the public information officer, and generally speaking, everything that comes out of the police department in official capacity,
It's through her. Okay.
I'm sure she'll talk to the chief about it and see what he has to say.
Okay, because we do have a camera crew that came. He's from New Hampshire, so they're going to be coming out of town soon. So we'd like to do something before they have to leave.
Give her a call.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll meet with you just to see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'd at least just a few minutes of friendly chat. You know, we're not looking for a big fancy interview. We're just trying to figure out what exactly is going on, because Gary's a smaller city. There's not the big media here that is constantly talking about things. If people don't read the newspaper, they don't know what's going on. So, and I think in some ways, you know, I grew up in Northwest Indiana, so I can definitely say there's lots of rumors that float around about the city, and I want to kind of clarify what's rumor and what's fact.
Right, I understand.
Because I think, like you said, there's a lot of just hearsay flying around, both about the police, both about the crime.
Yeah.
And I think you clear up what exactly the issue is, it's not going to have the stigma that it's been given, you know, the murder capital of the world, where You know, I walk around my streets at night. I see kids playing out in the street during the daytime. It's not. I don't feel like I'm living in Syria, you know, in a war zone. It's
Or Beirut or something.
yeah, it's not that bad, but I hear gunshots. We were sitting in the living room last night at about 1 o'clock, and I heard about 8 or 9 gunshots off in the distance.
I will say they're not as prevalent as they used to.
Okay.
You know, occasionally you still hear them, but yeah, I understand your point. I understand what you're saying. You know, but just give her a call and see what she has to say.
Do you think it's in some ways that the violent culture that gave the city the reputation in the past? Do you think it's kind of gotten a bit better as far as just the murder rate and the number of citizens per capita being victimized by either burglary, robbery, theft, whatever?
I don't know.
You don't know for sure?
Only because I don't keep up with those stats.
Okay.
You know, the only thing I'm responsible for is this general area right now, and I got enough to do, believe me, during the rest of the week. This is Sunday afternoon, and I got to deal with you guys right now. But
Well, we are the public.
Generally speaking, I got plenty to do, so I really don't even, and I definitely don't read newspapers.
Yeah, well, I can understand why you wouldn't want to. Just one last question. Do you live in Gary?
Yeah.
Okay, because again, that's something, you know, I'm not an outsider. Some of these guys are. I live here.
All right.
So in some ways, I really am curious to know.
Give me 1 second.
Is
Here,
Yeah, good idea.
Are you done coming on Tuesday? Okay.
Alright.
Yeah, I was just saying I am really curious to. You know, I grew up in Hammond, and I'm not very old. I look at when I do see the newspaper, I see the homicide victims, or even occasionally somebody who's been arrested for a homicide, and they're right in my age group. I'm 21. So a lot of the guys I'm seeing, it's like these kids grew up right around me in some ways. And I'm wondering what effects caused them to adapt such a violent nature. And, you know, growing up, it was, you heard Gary, Indiana, it was just stay away from that place. And I kind of was always curious.
A different time frame than you probably did. And that wasn't the case in Gary. Whatever happened, happened.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What, you know, generally speaking, what people are talking about are trying to find solutions. That's pretty much what we deal with. I don't know what turned people from whatever direction they decided to be law-abiding citizens to being criminals. I have no idea. The only thing I can say is it happened. We have to respond to it by law, and that's the only way we do.
Do you think some of it's fueled by just the drug war and people with drugs and selling and buying and?
I'm sure that has a part to do with it, you know, but there are a whole lot of different theories out there as far as, you know, what started the quote-unquote spiral of crime in Gary. You know, it's just a matter of, you know, what letter out of the alphabet you choose. You can find something for everybody, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what it pretty much comes down to, you know. I tend not to look at the past so much, but, you know, toward the future and see what we can do to be positive about it. So.
Right. No, that's why we're here. I feel like, again, you know, we've had the tour in very interesting places where we're, you know, one place they stopped was Johannesburg, South Africa. And there's an interesting place, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie District 9,
Yeah.
but there's a district called District 6, and it was in many ways, it was created as a place of just like this temporary slum, if you will, to move a lot of the people in the city into, and it became much more permanent settlement. And in that area, they've talked to people about the police, and people are very scared of the police.
Well, you got to look at the history of South Africa, too, and the
Right.
population you're talking about.
Right. No, I completely agree. But I feel like in some ways there is there's just a common denominator there where it even though you're dealing with a completely different nation, completely different background history, you know, growing up here, it's easy to see where, you know, there's just common denominators of everyone wants to move out of Gary and they moved on to a different place because, you know, what's the motivating factor? I think, you know, you got the white flight factor in there where there's a common, just people are scared of different colored skinned people. And I think that's...
That has a place in history, yeah.
But it's especially strong here, I think, that it isn't necessarily... You look at places like Birmingham or, you know, Mississippi where it was... Everyone knows that sort of thing happened here, and I think people don't realize it was as prevalent here in the North, even though it's obvious that the culture in some ways did feel that way. Because you watch the demographic shift of neighborhoods like Ambridge Man or
Right, yeah.
Glen Park, where it goes from people just fleeing and panicking out of there. And I think that has a somewhat of a common denominator too. You look at a place like South Africa, where there's that same sort of panic around people actually, you know, it's desegregated in a way, but it isn't necessarily integrated. And I think there's a lot of places you can look at that desegregation was something done by law. Integration is something much more voluntary that has to be chosen by people. You can't force people to like each other.
Right.
You kind of have to come to that assumption by themselves. So I think, in some ways, I'm curious to know if that has a factor to play in any of this. Because I think it does, and I'm wondering, is that a big factor in just the continued rumors about the violence in the city? Because I look around, I see just bombed out buildings, and it's like, this is...
Well, you know, you got to understand the history of the city of Gary. You know, at one time we had 275,000 people here. You know, and people tend to go to the path of least resistance. And whatever caused that resistance in the 60s, you know, depends on your point of view. You know, it may have been racial, or it may have been economic, there are a whole lot of different other factors. But, you know, people left.
Mm-hmm.
And then the economic downturn of the 80s led to a lot of more people leaving. So, you know, this is part of the story that happened in the city of Gary. You know, I mean, in order to come to Gary, Indiana, to get an idea of what Gary, Indiana, and the circumstances that affect Gary, Indiana, you have to know the history of Gary, Indiana. Hold on. Gary Police Department front desk. Yeah. You talk to me. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's he very far down there. Yeah, but you gotta know the history of Gary. You know, there are a lot of reasons why Gary is in the circumstance that you know it was. When you lose a lot of money because of economic downturns and your industrial base is literally disappearing over the course of a decade, circumstances happen. And you know, when you want to apply negative behaviors in an area where you can take advantage of it, where there's a population that are downtrodden, for lack of a better term, you know, things happen. You know, like I said, it's not my job to go through the history of the city of Gary. It's not my job to sit here and, you know, tell you all the reasons why this has happened. But if someone's going to commit a crime, it's my job to make sure the person who's accused has his day in court. You know, I don't have a problem with, you know, the judicial system and how it works. You know, it's just a matter of making the system work for the law enforcement needs to do, and that's it.
Okay.
But like I got other stuff I gotta do, guys. Like I said, give Corporal King a call Tuesday.
Okay.
And she'll take care of whatever.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I know you're busy, and you have a good day.
Thanks.
My name's Garrett. Could I get your name real quick?
Jared Bridgman.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good one. Wow, we got nearly 20 minutes of video.
Yeah, I wanted to get a bit more.
Yeah, but nothing was really even said or answered, though. Like, we just got to talk to that person.
Well,
We had some good casual conversation.
Yeah,
with
good
Yeah,
casual
that's
conversation between
kind
him,
of what
but
I
it's
wanted to keep
obvious that
keep talking. Is just I felt like in some ways he sits behind his desk and
Yeah,
You
he
could
doesn't
see
really,
it.
he's not the public relations officer. In some ways,
Right.
he doesn't want to be because he doesn't want to deal with the pressure of.
Well, and plus, yeah, he's not going to go on record saying anything about his personal opinion, even if. Hey, I smoke this.
Yeah, I think.
Even if. Huh? No, well, it was a good conversation. I didn't mean that. It's just. Right, we got to talk to somebody who's down to get the fucking brass tacks, because I don't want to sit here and bullshit about this nonsense. I want to find out if you feel the police are capable of handling the violence in the community.
That was the first time I've ever used
And
it.
what are the police doing to handle the violence in the
Just
community?
other.
That's just filler video to put in while they're doing the interview. I
That's
heard
good
Pete
stuff.
say it
That's good
yesterday, and I
stuff.
thought,
But that, you know,
I gotta Google that.
it was funny too. He got hostile because somebody said that they're going to try to hold him accountable.
Yeah, he was. You could tell he was a little skeptical at first. Like, you guys anti-cop? Like, he didn't say it like
Yeah,
that, but
right. But that's what he was
trying to
doing,
pick, like, seeing, you know, you did a good job pointing out there's more to this than just like the cops are doing something bad. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Making
I
it.
actually respect that dude for sitting there and answering the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
He
was
gave
not
us-
expecting that at all.
He opened up, and in some ways, I feel like.
Isn't he supposed to do that?
Yeah,
Isn't he
could
supposed to
talk
serve
you
the
just
public?
scooting over this way real quick, could I, Garrett? I'm gonna like zoom out on that and then you.
At the very least, I think get some footage in there that'll. I figured you're gonna edit the sound out anyway.
Yeah, it's B-roll, yeah.